I got you.
All right, creatures of the night, welcome to Talking Taker, episode 186 of our encyclopedic exploration, digging up the career of the greatest professional wrestling character of all tiz-ime, the Undertaker. My name is Alex Dorio, and I am one of your co-hosts, one of your creatures of the night. I want to thank you for joining us for yet another round, our second to last round of Dead Man Talking. And I am joined, as always, by my tag team partner, my wrestling buddy, my good brother, Mr. Travis White. And Travis, over the past 185 episodes, we've taken our time traveling hearse to a lot of places. We've gone to the funeral parlor. We've been to the graveyard. We've been to the boiler room. We've been to the embalming room. We've been inside an inferno. We've been to the Punjabi prison. We've been to hell in the cell. We've been in the elimination chamber. We've been to Canada and Australia and England, Japan, Saudi Arabia. And now, after all this time, for The Undertaker's final match, we are pulling the time-traveling hearse into its final parking spot in the Boneyard.
His match, apparently. The Boneyard. Yeah, dude, we are doing it. Pulling that hearse in, and we will literally we will see a hearse pulled in. I'm rocking the hearse tonight, the 3 of a kind. There's only 3 of these in production. By my wife. So I believe I have one. Does Randy, or who has the other one?
Well, we sent to
someone
a mug to
somebody.
Princeton John, I think it was.
Yeah, somebody got a shirt, didn't they?
I have a shirt.
And you got a purple one, right?
Yeah. Did we send another?
Maybe not. Maybe
it might have been Jeremy.
Maybe it was 2 of a kind.
I don't know.
Maybe it was Jeremy.
It might be 2 of a kind. I don't know. I've got the Biker Taker guy shirt.
Classic.
Tank top, of course, although it's cold here, so I've got my jacket on. The Biker Taker guy of tpublic.com.
We're all Biker Taker guys tonight. So.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, I am excited to talk about this, not because it's the end or anything, but just because this is just this ride we've been on. We were talking about, going on the last ride, and this is going to be the last ride tonight. This is it. And he's going to ride up, and he's going to ride away, and it's just a lot. It's just a cool thing, and to see, we've seen these crazy matches. We've seen a cinematic match, if you will, with, not really, but the boiler room brawl.
Yeah,
it was different, and we had the big VCR like your substitute teacher brings out, and that was fun. But we've covered everything, man, and this is just coming full circle to what's new and what's 2020, and into the future of wrestling. We've talked about how the game has changed since November 22nd, 1990, and it's changed a lot, and now they're doing these things, and this was the first one of its kind in this new era. There was that the Wyatt compound, the Wyatt compound and the Hardy compound match or whatever, but this is where they really took it to another level, in WWE.
Yeah, I agree, and we're going to talk about the game changing and why the game changes and how this match became what it was, because this was certainly not its intention when it was announced. Even we had no idea what it was going to be, what it was going to look like, and how it would turn out like this. So we'll talk about all of that as we go along here, and just want to remind our fans, this is not our last episode. Next week we are going to wrap it all up, so we'll save all of the emotions. We'll save all of the big talk, the big overarching talk about Undertaker's career. We are going to wrap everything up next week on the podcast. There's enough to talk about here with just the Boneyard match itself. Yeah. So fret not. You got one more week of Travis and I in your ear holes or in front of your eyeballs if you're watching us on YouTube. So we're going to take our time traveling hearse back just 1 year ago to March of 2020, to a time when the world was a bit more normal for just another week or two. So grab a glass of Undertaker Cabernet Sauvignon, as Stone Cold would say. I've I have not drank all this. My wife has been sharing this with me. If you check out our YouTube channel, we have an uncorking as we drink and taste test this. So that'll be up this week. You can check that out. But I'm going to savor it and enjoy it for our final Undertaker match here tonight. So Travis, why don't you take us to March 2nd? Oh, yeah, March 2nd, 2020.
March 2nd,
man, kick us
which
off.
is a year ago from as we're recording. So, yeah, we're going to go for
Yes,
the
it is.
go-home show for Elimination Chamber. So, we recap last week when the OC attacked Aleister Black backstage, which leads to the match tonight. Commentary are wondering, like, what's AJ's status, because he had the encounter with Taker at Super Showdown and lost the Aggro Crag match. So, the Good Brothers come out with AJ for his match with Aleister, and we see a recap where Taker surprised everyone at Super Showdown and won the prestigious two-way trophy.
Prestigious.
And
yes.
AJ gets on the mic and he's like, he is not in a good mood at all. So, and in fact, Byron Saxton talks about how Taker thought so little of AJ during that match that he never took off his coat or jacket, he says. So,
he never took off his coat or jacket. Apparently, he was wearing both. I had to rewind that to make sure I heard what I just thought I heard from old Byron.
Yeah, old Byron. So
we gotta get a commentary botch in this final episode.
Oh, yeah.
Man. It's been one of our favorite things to talk about.
It has, yeah. So yeah, absolutely. And AJ comes out. He's not on the good mood. He's like, I would be out here with this beautiful trophy, but the Undertaker deprived me of that. And the crowd's chanting for Taker. Again, the crowd. We had crowds still at this point. So AJ says, I'm the talk of the town, but not in a good way, and I'm phenomenal. There's no way I should ever be talked about negatively, and even Hollywood's catching on. And there's a viral video now of me getting advice from Mark Wahlberg. And then we cut to some footage, which I think Mark Wahlberg is promoting Spencer Confidential. What the heck is that? Was it a Netflix show or something?
I think it was a Netflix movie.
Okay.
But I thought you were talking about Mark Wahlborg, because that's what AJ Styles calls him.
Mark Wahlborg.
Gainesville accent. Mark Wahlborg. I wasn't sure who that was.
Yes. That's going to be a new wrestler. But, then we see footage of Mark Wahlborg saying that he was watching WWE with his kids, and he's got some advice for AJ. Walk away while you still have a chance and while you still can. Okay. Some words from Marky Mark. We've talked about OJ, LL Cool J, not OJ. We have talked about OJ with the first cinematic match with the OJ Simpson stuff spliced in with
right.
Piper.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right. Sure.
LL Cool J. We talked about Snoop Dogg. We've had lots of rappers on here, but
Fred Durst.
We get to Fred Durst. We didn't even get to Marky Mark though. So yeah, that was something else.
I will bet you $100 case of wine that Mark Wahlborg was not watching Monday Night Raw with his kids.
I will not take that bet.
Don't believe that.
Well,
yes.
Might as well do one last time.
Oh, okay. You just want to be a part of it.
No, I honestly thought about bringing you cookies,
Oh.
and I realized it was the last time I could do it.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Hi, Travis. Hi.
hello.
I ate the
You
other
can bring me cookies
so-
this weekend.
All right, we'll do our best.
Yeah. So then AJ says, I should be selling Good Brothers, but instead I'm getting advice from Marky Mark. And then we get a small Marky Mark chant, which you got to
Yes,
go
we
with
did.
the fans on that. It's great. So, and then, AJ says, I'm not going to take advice. I'm on a collision course with The Undertaker. And I hope you're watching tonight because I got a match with Aleister Black. And it'll be a warning for you. You're a legend among legends, but, you're trying to hold on to that spotlight, and it's not yours anymore. It's mine. So then Aleister comes out for his first ever match against AJ Styles, which was a big deal at the time. I've been clamoring for this match. I was a big fan of Aleister Black at the time, and I don't know where he is right now, but I really enjoyed him and his character. And anyway, AJ says, you didn't read the contract. First, you got to face Carl Anderson. So Black beats him in 2 minutes with a black mass. Then he says you got to face Luke Gallows. Gallows gets DQ'd because he won't stop stomping a mud hole. And then, so by virtue of winning now, Aleister Black gets to face AJ. So they beat him up, triple team him. The Good Brothers did the magic killer on him. And then the OC posed with Too Sweet. And AJ says that, you're, or he's ready to fight. And Alistair's kind of being the underdog babyface and pulling himself up, and the crowd's chanting for Taker though, which is the problem. So you're not getting that sympathy on Black. You're just everyone's looking past him and going to Taker, which is, it's a good and a bad thing. It's a bad thing for Alistair. It's a good thing for the long-term storytelling with AJ and Taker. But which is one thing that John Cena says is when you're wrestling me, try to get the fans not to say Cena sucks. Try to get them to chant you. That's how you know you're over. So he's not being a narcissistic. He's just saying that's the thing, and that then goes right here. But
there are some who might critique this and put it down as WWE, burying the younger talent at the expense of a guy like The Undertaker. But you know what? Aleister Black's got a lot of time left, and he's got plenty of time to recover for that. And that is what we're building for. We're going to WrestleMania, Undertaker AJ Styles. So sorry about your luck, Aleister.
Exactly. Well, AJ beats on Aleister Black shortly, and then beats him with a phenomenal forearm. And then he actually is going to fold Aleister's arms over, stick his tongue out, do the classic pose to mock Undertaker, and get that win over Aleister Black here. And this was, a piece of the storytelling here. And I also want to mention, just because we're running out of real estate here on Talking Taker, but this is the night that Eric Rowan reveals that he's been carrying a giant fake spider in his cage for months. So that's.
Did you have to reveal that? Did you have to bring us back to that?
I had to bring us back to that.
Oh,
we don't have anything. We have no more time left to talk about it. So.
Yeah, you did it, man.
That was Monday.
Thanks for
at the end of that week. Well, at the end of that week, something special happened.
Yes, it does. So, in the timeline of the show, you go back to March 7th, 2020. A day before the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, The Undertaker is in New York City, and so are we.
Yes, sir.
You heard from my dad earlier in the show, so we talked about my parents sending us to New York for this incredible moment to meet The Undertaker, to take a picture with him, and to have him say the words, "Take her easy," which you hear at the beginning of every episode of the podcast. Just an incredible moment, incredible 24 hours that we spent up in the city, and just a peak moment, a highlight moment of the show. It doesn't look like we're gonna have him as a guest on the show anytime soon, although we'll certainly we'll reunite if we could ever make that happen. But still, just to have that moment with him, and we told him about the podcast, so he is aware of it. He's conscious of it in his mind, and that was pretty special.
Absolutely.
And Travis, remind the fans what he said when we were getting his autograph, and we told him what the podcast was.
Oh, yeah. You told him that, we have a podcast devoted solely to him. We just talked about him, and he said, what did he talk about after the first 5 minutes? So he just really undersold himself.
Without missing a beat, though, man.
It was great. Yeah,
it was the perfect response. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was perfect. He didn't, hesitate or anything. He just, what are you talking about after the first 5 minutes? And Kevin laughed at it, and that was good. And he enjoyed our Take Her Easy, so that was a fun weekend. And we got to meet Jeremy Bagley there. Yeah. It was fun.
So you can see it over my shoulder, the autographed poster that's hanging up here in the podcast studio of our logo, which is pretty freaking cool that we get to do that. And there's a vlog on our YouTube channel as well with some of the moments of us on that whirlwind day. So go check that out. But Undertaker had a whirlwind weekend because after that highlight of meeting us, he flew to Philadelphia to be at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view as a surprise on March 8th, 2020. And this is the last WWE pay-per-view to date with any fans in the arena. They're allegedly going to have fans at WrestleMania, but I heard that
they no tickets on sale.
Yeah, so I don't know. But AJ Styles is going to face Aleister Black here again tonight. It's going to be a no DQ match. And AJ talks to Charlie Caruso backstage. She asks him if the Good Brothers are going to be in his corner, and he says, "Of course they are." But he's trying to undersell it, like they're not actually gonna interfere. So he kind of gets all nervous and walks away from the promo and kind of backs off there, kind of mumbling his words and everything. And then AJ and Aleister, they go on to have a great match here on the pay-per-view. And, of course, Gallows and Anderson do get involved since it's no DQ, and they pick apart Aleister for a little bit. And then Gallows and Anderson are going to prop up Aleister Black on either shoulder of theirs. And AJ is going to hop up onto the top rope to go for that phenomenal forearm. But as he does that, as he gets up on the top rope, we hear the gong. And the crowd, dude, they go nuts in Philly. I don't know if they were anticipating it and they were excited for it, or if they were surprised by it and they were just so excited for it. But it was huge.
It is tremendous. It's tremendous. And this is the last live pop we're going to hear.
Dang, man. This is
the
it.
Undertaker.
This is his final appearance in front of fans to this date of this recording. And, of course, lights go back on. We hear another gong. Undertaker is standing in the ring, and he's goozling Gallows and Anderson, who are on their knees. And I think this pop got Taker off guard, too, because he is jacked. He just chugged a couple of Red Bulls before he came out there, because he is screaming in Gallows and Anderson's faces. He is real intense into it. He turns around and AJ hops off the top rope and Taker catches him in a goozle. He screams in AJ's face as he gives him a choke slam again. Gong, lights out, lights back on, and now Aleister gets his revenge as he hits the Black Mass on AJ Styles and gets the win over him, since it is a no DQ match here. And he walks out over the bodies of Gallows and Anderson as the whole OC is laid out. The Undertaker has once again gotten the upper hand here. And, you know, it sucks that this is the last Taker appearance in front of fans in his career. You know, I'm sure there will be some in the future. Of course there will be, Hall of Fame, just random Raw appearances. But, no, just the way that things worked out, this was a really cool final appearance. Wish it didn't have to be this way, but at least it was a really awesome one with the crowd really involved in it.
Yeah, it was, and it's even more special too because I like the symmetry here where his last proper appearance before an arena full of fans was at the same site as his last he had a match in Saudi, but his actual last match in America before that was the Graveyard Dogs tag team match in Philadelphia. That's where his last appearance is. That's right cool. Here in front of fans. So I think that's pretty cool. Philly's a great town. They gave him great reaction both times. I just thought that was pretty poetic right there, man. I really dug the symmetry of that. Definitely. Excellent. And it wasn't pointed out, obviously, because I didn't know. But, it occurred to me because we've been covering this stuff with a fine-tooth comb. So, but anyway, it's going to take us to the next night. This is the final episode of Raw before COVID-19, pandemic really kicks it up a notch and changes the world, changes the way we view everything, way we spend time together or not together and whatever, and just the way the world is. But come Friday, they've moved to the Performance Center. So this is the last Raw in front of fans because things are going to shut down. So the OC come out to the ring. AJ's got the Good Brothers with him, and they want to talk about what happened last night. And we see a recap of Taker's surprise return and AJ losing. So AJ's lost twice now. Crowd's chanting for Taker, and AJ says, 3 years ago at WrestleMania, I saw the Undertaker get beat by Roman Reigns. I saw him fold up his jacket, lay it down in the middle of the ring, and held up his fist like he's going right off into the sunset. And truthfully, he probably should have done that when Brock Lesnar ended the streak, but whatever. So he says, it was a beautiful, powerful moment, but you ruined it when you came back. And he asked if it was his ego or his spotlight, whatever it is going to cost him, which that's all kind of reminiscent of Triple H before the Super Showdown match. He started saying some of that kind of stuff too. So, but this has a Southern twang to it.
Yes, it does.
so anyway, AJ says, if is it your ego, whatever it is, but whatever it is going to cost you, and AJ looks straight in the camera and says, I wanted the Undertaker at WrestleMania. 10 to 15 years ago, I'd have been hesitant about calling you out, but I don't see a phenom anymore. What I see now is a broken down old man named Mark Calloway, which I think he actually says Galloway, but that's fine. But I see a broken down old man named Mark Calloway. That's big news, man.
Dude, yeah.
That's big news.
I can't remember if like Triple H or Shawn ever did that, but
Stephanie called him Mark in that one.
Okay,
but that was it. Like you
yeah,
didn't call
it's
Mark
not
Calloway.
common. No. It's pretty.
No.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah, back when he was like obsessed with her and trying to abduct her and all that stuff, like she and Vince were on the couch or whatever.
Oh
And he
my
said,
God.
"I know Mark." Remember that?
Yes.
So we talked about how Russo wrote that and to kind of break the fourth wall. But like
man.
he said, Mark. But yeah, that's the only time he's been referred to as Mark that I can recall. So, but this is his full name, Mark Calloway, and he's called a broken down old man. Like that's rough, So, of course, getting massive heat here. AJ says Taker should have retired 10 years ago, back when he was in his prime, but you keep coming back, and I know why. It's because of your wife, Michelle McCool. So another bomb being dropped. Yeah, pipe bombs here. So he says, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag and tell the world publicly that, Taker and Michelle McCool are married. So we're just letting everything out now. So he says, Michelle plays Taker like a fiddle. She pulls all the strings, and you got a beautiful family. It's all great, but she is the most conniving person I've ever met in my entire life. She gives the Undertaker advice AJ gives the Undertaker advice and says, you know what? Your wife's going to run you in the ground, and I'm going to help her. I'm going to make sure you die in that ring at WrestleMania. I'm going to take the Undertaker's soul at WrestleMania. I'm going to do exactly what your wife wants me to do. It's pretty simple. I'm challenging you to a one-on-one match at WrestleMania. What do you have to lose? You've already lost your dignity, your pride, your mystique. Like I said, you're just a broken down old man. And goes on to say, the fans don't care about you, so accept this challenge, fight me. And at WrestleMania, I will literally put the nail in your coffin. Dude, if you'd have told me in 2016 when AJ came in the WWE that he's going to cut that promo on The Undertaker, I would have called you a liar.
Imagine me telling you that in 2002 when he's a rookie in TNA, or even in like 2010 when he's at the peak of his time in TNA. You would never believe that. Just
A, he didn't have the skills back then, and B, like just the breaking the fourth wall, the realness of it, the calling him an old man, bringing his wife into it. Not his wife Sarah back in the day, but this is his actual wife he's with now, and calling him Mark Calloway, and it was different, man, and it definitely led you to believe, even from the get go of this feud, that this is going to be something different.
Yeah, no, for sure. The excellent promo from AJ here, a guy who's not you don't think of as a promo guy necessarily, but I mean he crushes it here. It's a great example of blending reality into the storyline of. I mean, we all know Michelle McCool's married to Undertaker. Sure. We all know she's married to Mark Calloway, but blending that reality into the character of the Undertaker on TV is so rare and it's so unique that it makes you we know it's fake. We know we're not thinking, AJ just broke the rules here, but it does draw you in. Ooh, that's different. Ooh, that's special. That's a wall. That's a boundary we haven't crossed before. So.
And because, Biker Taker, when they brought Sarah in, that was the more realistic type thing. He was Undertaker, but he wasn't the dead man mystique, all about him. But this is still the dead guy. He's still got the mystique about him, the aura around him, still has supernatural powers. So the different version of Undertaker being the realness brought in was it's just a clashing of all his characters at once,
Yeah.
Which we'll continue to see here.
It's like the opposite of... the stuff they did with Bobby Lashley and Rusev and Lana, where it's all right, they're trying to pretend that Lana and Lashley are married on screen, but Rusev and Lana are still posting selfies together on Instagram. It's just this is dumb. Why are you doing this to us? But this is reality. They're going to talk about Michelle McCool's Instagram and Undertaker's Instagram and all this stuff that we see on there, and they're building that into the storyline, which is a great, it's the opposite of that, in my opinion.
Yep.
This is awesome. This is great. At this point, we're thinking, okay, WrestleMania 36, Tampa Bay, out in front of the pirate ship. Undertaker's going to have this epic entrance there. Maybe some Ghost Pirates, some Pirates of the Caribbean stuff.
Yeah.
You could do some cool stuff. AJ and Taker, they're going to have an in-ring match. And it's going to be, Undertaker in the ring has been a little dicey over the past few years. But if anybody could pull the old school Taker out of him, AJ Styles would be that guy. So it's very exciting. But of course, as you mentioned already and alluded to, COVID-19 really shuts the world down in the next week. This Raw was on March 9th. On March 10th, that was sort of the tipping point day in the U.S. That was the day that the NBA had its first cases and the day that Tom Hanks had his case revealed. And so then the next day, March 11th, the NBA shut down its entire season, or put it on pause at least for a while. And that was like the first domino as far as the sports world and the sports entertainment world. It happened so rapid fire. March 12th is, I found an article from Bleacher Report that reported SmackDown is going to move to the Performance Center in an abundance of caution and not let fans into the arena. And no one knew what was going to go on. No one knew it would still be in front of empty arenas a year later up to this point. But it was just, everything was happening so fast. March 13th, that SmackDown from the Performance Center airs. And, we talked about our trip to New York earlier in the show. I mean, COVID, we were aware of it because I remember we both had hand sanitizer and we were all just, we were both a little, okay, let's, make sure we don't touch things. Let's make sure we use hand sanitizer. But it was not, we didn't exactly know. I know our flights were very empty. Like it was maybe half full on the flight home, which was pretty, that's pretty rare. But we really didn't see as much masks. I thought I'd see a lot more people in masks in the airport, but we really didn't see that.
Yeah, it was not as prolific as it would have been about a week later.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they declared as a state of emergency in New York while we were there, which was uh-oh. Okay, maybe this is real. So it gets very real for the WWE. Raw 316, 2020. Yeah. This is the first pandemic era episode of Raw. And again, it looks different than it looks now. So they don't have the Thunderdome with all the screens. It was in the Performance Center where they held, not even where they held NXT, right? Or is it the same place?
NXT used to be from Full Sail.
Yeah.
And then it moved to here once COVID hit. So
yeah, but they have like a specific studio for that. This was something a little bit different.
Now they do it at the PC, but yeah, before that it was just all at Full Sail. So this was the first time they'd ever held any kind of live taping at Yes. Was the SmackDown before this, so that's why the camera was facing, like now they got it facing the stage,
right?
Like it was shot like you just saw empty chairs behind Stone Cold when he comes out. So it's just weird.
It's very weird, and I give WWE credit. They have certainly not been perfect in their COVID response, and they've had some messy, dicey issues with it. But I do give them credit for how they, jumped into things here at this point. They've never missed a show in this whole pandemic. You could call that a positive or a negative, but you definitely give them credit at this point in the early stances of it. They kept the show on the road. That's their motto. That's their thing here. So after the announcers open up the show talking about the prevailing circumstances that have led to this empty arena show, because they don't like to use the words COVID, the announcers, they throw a recap of AJ's promo from last week. And then Byron Saxton tells us that The Undertaker and AJ are going to be here tonight for a contract signing. And then later on in the night, after they air the entire Royal Rumble match from earlier in the year, because they don't have a lot of wrestling, a ton of it in these early episodes. Mm-hmm. Jerry the King Lawler is in the ring with the contract table, but there's no contract on the table, which is interesting. Right. He introduces The Undertaker for the contract signing, and the Dead Man makes one of his most unique entrances ever here. Because his music plays and he walks into an empty arena. And we can already see the evolution here. AJ called him Mark Calloway last week, and Taker comes out. He's still the dead man, but there's no jacket, there's no hat, there's no coat or jacket, no smoke, no lasers. He's got a bandana on his head, or beanie on his head. He's got his hair in a ponytail, and he's got his Undertaker gear, but he's got the straps down already. So, sort of looking a little bit like the Biker Taker, a little bit more like that, a little, less of the dead man, sort of attitude era a little bit, as he storms down to the ring. He does not pose, he doesn't take any time, he just runs to the ring like he's going to fight with Stone Cold. And he gets in the King's face and just flips the contract table over in front of him. And we don't understand exactly why, because we cut to commercial, and we come back, and the announcers inform us that Undertaker was so mad because there was no contract on the table to sign. So AJ is playing some mind games with him here. And AJ continues that. We get a... Oh, jeez. Hold on. Let me get that. Using my hands.
Yeah, it was definitely crazy, because then you come back and, like you said, Taker's just pacing like a caged lion, man. Just storming in the ring, walking back and forth, wondering what's going on. He's livid, but it's kind of weird because there's no fans, like, booing or anything, but they're doing the best they can, what they got, man. So.
Just spilled red wine all over my laptop.
That's red wine.
I get too excited, man. I talk with my hands.
You sure he didn't have all that?
I'm 100% positive.
Just kidding.
So yes, Undertaker is angry. We get this video package, and it's actually got some clips from Michelle and Undertaker's Instagram. They put some photos of Undertaker and AJ or Michelle in there that AJ had talked about the week before when he's talking about Michelle McCool. And it's that social media is going to continue to play a big role in this rivalry here. We cut back to the ring, and Taker is just angrily pacing back and forth. AJ's music plays, but he doesn't come to the ring. Sort of an Undertaker-type move there. As the music stops, it plays again, and AJ is playing mind games with Undertaker. Finally, the OC, Gallows, and Anderson, AJ, they all appear on the big screen, and we see AJ holding the contract for their match in his hand. AJ's laughing, and he says, as fate would have it, they are here in the Performance Center where hundreds of recruits have wanted to train to become just like The Undertaker. And AJ points out, not me or the Good Brothers, because, we went straight to the main roster, which is a great heel comment from him. AJ says he puts Undertaker over, says he carried the company on his back, but it's 2020, and he keeps interjecting himself in a world that would rather see him removed from it. Because after all, you don't see Michael Jordan interjecting himself into the NBA Finals, and you don't see Peyton Manning or Brett Favre interjecting themselves into the Super Bowl, but you can always bet on Undertaker interjecting himself into WrestleMania. Oh, it's a great line.
It's a great line.
Why don't people do that, though? Like, what if Tom Brady stayed with Tampa Bay until he was 50, but he only played in the Super Bowl? Like they draft Trevor Lawrence or something, and he gets him there. But playoff time, Tom Brady, he's rested all season. He comes back in there. Why not, man?
Yeah, that'd be great, dude. Love that.
Sign MJ. Somebody sign MJ for the finals. Just see what he can do. Let him drain a couple threes or something. I don't know.
It'd be awesome, man.
It's a great strategy. But then AJ coins a new nickname, as he says, "This is all Money Michelle's fault." He blames Michelle McCool again. He puts her name in his mouth. And says the flame Undertaker once had is totally gone. And he says part of him thinks he should be taking it easy on this old guy, but he doesn't really want to do that because the Undertaker keeps sticking his nose in his business. And at WrestleMania, the lights are going to go off, but Undertaker can't hide. And we know he can't run anymore. So AJ will put him down, pay for his assisted living cost, and do everyone a favor when they make him rest in peace. So once again, AJ continues to deliver these brutal promos on Undertaker. But now, AJ signs the contract, and like a great heel, he's going to put the onus on Gallows and Anderson to actually go out and confront The Undertaker. As he tells them, after he's talked all this trash about Undertaker, why don't you do me a favor and take this contract out there to The Undertaker to sign? And Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson are like, nope. No, thank you.
Yeah, they know what's up.
But AJ finally forces them to go out there and do it. And they do. They gingerly slide the contract into the ring and then back off like, hey, we don't want no trouble, dead man. We don't want no trouble. That's AJ's deal. But unfortunately for them, Undertaker looks down at the contract and then the gong hits. Lights go out. Gong hits again. Lights go up. And now, instead of in the ring, Undertaker is standing behind the Good Brothers. They realize what's up as they slowly turn around. Yep. Perfect reveal. Taker bashes them into the side of the ring. He whips Carl Anderson into the stairs. Unloads some soup bones on Luke Gallows. AJ, his face is still on the big screen. He's just watching this furiously. Taker tosses Anderson into the barricade, boots him into the face, tosses Gallows into the other side, and then Undertaker makes it official, signs the contract, takes the piece of paper, and shoves it in Carl Anderson's mouth, which is just perfect as his music plays, and he has a virtual face-to-face with AJ Styles. So it's like the first Zoom meeting of WWE history here. That's basically what this is right here, as he gets to look at AJ's face.
Is like huge, just like mean mugging on it. So, yeah, it's gigantic. But
but, you know, considering the circumstances and the way they've had to pivot in just the past few days, this is a really, really fun way to build to this match and to keep the storyline going.
And that would have played out that way in front of a crowd or not, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
similar. You still could have done all that, you know? It would have been kind of cool. So you just would have heard the pops. But, so that was on the 16th? So 2 days later, on Wednesday, the 18th, March 18th, WWE announces WrestleMania will emanate from the PC and it'll be a 2-night event. So that's when we finally get the reveal. You know, too big for one night, or when the only WrestleMania too big for one night, which it was the only one, but even though 2021's will be 2 nights too, though. But anyway, really, you know, again, talking about the game changing, WWE, the evolution of it. It's going to 2 nights, man, which is something I think is a great idea. I love it. WrestleMania is already 17 hours long. Why not make it 2 nights? You get double the main event matches. You get, you know, double the opening matches. You get to highlight more people instead of cramming them all on one day. You can get double the ticket sales if you need to. I'm just saying, like, long term, if they actually go, you know, if the world gets normal and we can have fans and hundreds of thousands of them, like, that's double your ticket sales right there, man. You know,
I'll be shocked if they ever go away from it. You know.
Yeah. Well, the next 2 years from now, they've only got one night planned. They've already announced next year and the year after. Yeah. WrestleMania Hollywood and WrestleMania Dallas. They've only got one night announced right now, so I don't know why. I bet they'll test it out this year.
Yeah,
I hope so.
You're right.
Yeah.
I think they'll change.
I hope so. But anyway, that's going to take us to the Raw the next week, the 23rd, March 23rd. So after a recap from last week, AJ makes his way out with the Good Brothers, and he says, you know, WrestleMania is too much for one night, and Taker and me will go at it at WrestleMania, and I don't care if it's Saturday or if it's Sunday, but Taker may care because, you know, he doesn't know what day his wife's going to let him come out of the house. So, again, just ragging on him and ragging on Michelle. So, he says last week Taker had on big stretchy pants. just reading that sentence is hard for me. I can't imagine someone telling Taker he has on big stretchy pants. So that's just crazy, man. It's crazy to me. But he's just.
But he doesn't know. He's like, what do they call? What do they call? I can't figure it out.
Gal's like maternity pants. Yeah. You're like a gothic version of Dog the Bounty Hunter. No. A gothic version of the Tiger King, which is a stamp on the sign of the times, man, because that was
Exactly.
the biggest news
Yes.
in March of 2020.
Yes.
Was Tiger King. That was all over. It had gone viral. Everyone was at home watching Netflix all day. I'd never seen that show, but I'm still holding out. But yeah, it was the biggest thing in the world at that point. So kudos to WWE for being on time with their comment, not a month or
Not
6
6
years
months
later.
behind.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't try to get Joe Exotic for WrestleMania.
Oh, we got Gronk instead.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Big Yakaroni to the Tiger King. That's crazy. But he says that Taker has a Twitter account and shows him swimming with a tiger. And then Gallows says, actually, it was a Myrtle Beach safari. And then we see...
Gallows has been there.
Oh, yeah, he's been... Actually, it's a Myrtle Beach safari.
He's got a frequent visitor punch card.
Probably the punch card. He goes like a lot. So they know him by first name. Yeah. They call him Doc or something. Yeah. We then see this video that AJ's talking about of Taker and Michelle in a pool with a tiger advocating for rescuing tigers, and this is real.
It's real, folks.
It's an actual video of the shirtless Undertaker and Michelle McCool in a pool with a tiger. And it is pretty surreal to see as well. So,
very much so. Yes.
Yeah. We come back from it, and AJ's like, this is real life. I cannot believe that's the same Undertaker. Has he lost control? Ever since he lost the streak, he hadn't been the same. I want to take his soul, but Michelle beat me to it. Ooh, which is a great line. That's a great line, man. He says, you're posting selfies on Instagram. Who is this man? I don't want him. I want the Undertaker of yesteryear, and he's nowhere to be found. I'm going to give the WWE Universe what they want to see. I'm going to bring back the dead man in a match that he would love to be in. Right in his wheelhouse. It's a Boneyard match. Yes, this is your match, Taker. This is for you. And when it's all over, I'm going to bury you in the same plot, the perfect spot that's picked out. It's the same plot that Michelle McCool picked out when she buried your career. Got him again. Him and the Good Brothers are like, they might as well just be doing like back
together. Yeah.
But it's funny because even commentary is like, what's a Boneyard match? And I didn't know what we were going to get, but it's another unique marquee Taker match. And I remember Triple H in an interview, I guess it was after this match, maybe after the bell, he talked about it and just like saying that Vince just said it's going to be a Boneyard match, and they're like, what is that? He goes, I don't know, you figure it out. So him and Pritchard and what's his name, Borash, had to figure out what it was. So Vince had no clue. He's like, we'll make it. So it's part of his genius and part of his ridiculousness.
Yes, it is. And it's cool though because as you said, they've already announced WrestleMania has moved to the Performance Center, so there's not going to be fans there.
Yeah.
And so everyone was kind of wondering, okay, what is that going to be like? What does that mean for WrestleMania? And they announced a Boneyard match. That did get everybody's wheels turning. Okay, what does that mean? There's going to be something on location. Does that mean something like that Hollywood backlot brawl, like the Boiler Room brawl? They're going to be in a graveyard. They're going to be in a boneyard, whatever that is. That kind of opens the doors for what this WrestleMania could be. And I think got me a lot more excited for it because, still to this day, I have a hard time watching the Thunderdome. It's just so. I'm not used to it. A lot of people have gotten used to it, and it is what it is. I mean, you can't do anything about it. But to me, I just can't. I can't get into it, and it's better than what this was with nothing, with no sound, no crowd reaction, no virtual fans at all. It was not great to watch, not a great presentation.
Yeah, it's different. So I'm glad when they said Boneyard match, it made us think like, okay, because we're getting robbed of Taker and AJ, which is the new Shawn and Taker. They were going to be able to reach something like that, But if you don't have fans, let's not even deal. Let's just do something different. I love that they did that, and it's going to pay off, in my opinion. Well, it's going to outkick his coverage, man. It's great.
Oh, yeah. So just another quick sign of the times as we talk about this whole pandemic evolved. I mean, we all remember March was just like insanity. Like every day, every hour, something different was happening, something was changing. So March 27th of this week, that's when I got furloughed from my job. So I had been working this whole time, and that's, Thursday. That's when I got sent home, and I ended up being at home not working for a little over 2 months at that time. So I just got to sit there and get ready for WrestleMania for about a week or so.
Yep.
But, the crazy thing about this pandemic, Travis, you've been working the whole time. I mean, you never had any time off or anything like that. It's just like, I know there's some people that have still never left their house or have barely left their house in the past year. But, I was home for a couple months, but I've been going to work ever since, and you've been at work the whole time. It's such a weird time that we've all lived through.
Yeah, it is weird. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, they filmed WrestleMania like March 25th or 26th and 7th, if I'm not mistaken, because they were pre-filming these Raws, and they had these weird filming days, and they would film SmackDowns and Raws and NXTs and film them a couple of weeks in advance. And if I'm not mistaken, we're about to cover like when you were furloughed, like they were filming WrestleMania, if not had already filmed this. So it's crazy. This is the first ever pre-recorded WrestleMania.
Yeah. Go Home Raw takes place on March 30th, 2020. And
which again, pre-recorded.
Pre-recorded.
Weird. Yeah.
Yep. And Undertaker is going to open up this episode of Raw with a promo in a dark, smoky room. And again, he's looking more and more like the Biker Taker. Okay? It's not official. He's looking more and more like Mark Calloway.
Right.
Okay? Which is a really interesting twist here. Got a leather jacket. Got a beanie on his head. He doesn't have the traditional Undertaker hat. He's not talking in that Undertaker cadence. He's not talking about, God, I can't remember some of his Vince McMahon words here.
That's not.
He's not talking about eviscerating somebody. Yes. No. Because he opens the promo saying, AJ Styles or Alan Jones, if we're being real now. So okay, we're going down a different path with this promo. He says AJ's got a big mouth for being such a small man, and he doesn't know if he's got a big set or if he's just really that stupid. Tells AJ he's been writing checks that his butt can't cash, but it's all right. He's heard a lot worse from people far better than him. Taker admits there's some truth to what AJ said. Like 10 to 15 years ago, he wouldn't have tried him. And Taker says, he's darn right about that. AJ knew back then, 10 to 15 years ago, he didn't have what it took to compete with The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H, Booker T, Mick Foley, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, Edge, the very best in the business. He says the phenomenal one, my butt. And I just thought it was really interesting, the names that Undertaker listed off right there. Like, because, nobody scripted that for him. He listed off the people that, I think off the top of his head, those are the guys that he respects the most as far as the modern day business. We know he has love for like Yokozuna and, and guys like that from his time. Kane, sure. But, these are all guys that he thinks, if you had to ask him, that's like the cream of the crop right there. I think that's really cool to hear those names together.
I love that Booker's name was in there.
Booker and Eddie.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, because they're real close. Booker T and Taker are, apparently, I think. Yeah. Taker says, you waited till they were all gone to come to WWE. Well, except for me. Taker says, I definitely have more matches behind me than I do in front of me. But, Alan, your foolish pride has gotten the best of you. You crossed the line when you mentioned her. And Taker, he goes deep here. He goes with a deep cut and says, This is because she made the Faith Breaker better than you ever have. She got it over. And Taker is referring to Michelle McCool doing the same finishing move, the Styles Clash that AJ did, which is hilarious because she obviously stole it from AJ. And now he's trying to make it like, oh, he's jealous of her because she got it more over than him. It's hilarious. It's a great little, poking at the sore spot for AJ. Hilarious, man.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
A deep cut. Never thought I'd hear the Undertaker say the words "the Faith Breaker."
No.
But he says AJ's going to pay the price in the Boneyard for disrespecting his wife, Michelle McCool. Taker says, after all, the Boneyard was your idea. Undertaker says, try me, I'll make you famous. Which, of course, is famous words from the Biker Taker era. He says he hopes AJ brings those clowns, Gallows and Anderson, with him so that they could feel the wrath of his unholy trinity that he's bringing with him. Which was something we all kind of latched onto in this promo. Like, what does he mean by that? Like, what could that possibly mean? And to me, it never really clicked in the match what exactly that was. He tried to explain what he meant by that. I was thinking it was going to be like Matt Hardy reincarnation. We're going to see different eras of The Undertaker pop into this match, or maybe Michelle McCool is going to come out, or maybe somebody else, maybe like I don't know, Godfather or Papa
Kane.
Shango. Kane. Yeah, Kane, of course. Yeah. I was trying to think of BSK guy, but Kane, that makes a lot more sense. But Taker says you're going to feel the pain, you will get hurt, you will suffer, and most importantly, you will rest in peace. As the gong hits and the camera pans out and we see a tombstone behind The Undertaker that says AJ Styles, rest in peace, 1977 to 2020 on there. And that is a great promo. Great final promo for a match from The Undertaker. Very different. It's not traditional Undertaker, dead man character. Much more like the Biker Taker. But, I mean, really, it's like it's Mark Calloway. And that's what we see kind of peeled back. We're finally seeing, after 30 years, all the layers peeled back. And it feels like this is Mark Calloway talking after all this time.
Yeah, it was. I love this promo. And going back and revisiting it was a lot of fun because I forgot how much I liked it, and I hadn't seen it in a year. So, a lot of fun to watch. I highly recommend that. And yeah, like you said, it was just something different. It was something different from him, and this whole thing is going to be something different for WWE, for AJ, for Taker. It's a lot different. So that brings us to WrestleMania 36, Night 1. So this was Saturday night. It's April 4th, 2020 from the Performance Center. And this is, like I said, mentioned, it was actually pre-recorded and over the 25th and 26th. So, and we actually got to watch this together on Zoom. So you and me and a couple of our buddies, who was with us? Jay, Gibbs, Chuck,
Caleb, I think
Caleb
was on
joined
there
for a little bit.
I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got to watch this together. So, which was, again, that's the first time we've ever done that. So we've always watched them together in a room, or watched them separately and text each other. We were actually watching it together, and it was kind of different, but kind of fun.
It was the thing, Zoom Hangouts. It was still new. It wasn't like something you dreaded doing at this point, but it was still kind of new, something different. And it was a great way for us to reconnect because we hadn't been able to watch WrestleMania together for a long time because of just, how different everybody's lives are. Yeah. So, yeah, it was very fun. We laughed and had a great time doing it. I have to say, I was initially had a very negative attitude about this WrestleMania. I felt like they should have just canceled it. Like, God, don't do WrestleMania with no fans there. Like, come on. And, it was still the early days of the pandemic. Just felt like, this is unsafe. They really shouldn't be doing this. But, again, I have to say, the way they pulled off the whole thing was honestly fantastic. And when it got right down to it on April 4th, I was ready for a distraction, man. And had no idea we were still going to be living in this at this point a year later. But man, there had been no sports, no live events on TV for like 3 whole weeks, and we were like, oh my goodness, like oh, that's so terrible. It's been 3 weeks. There's been nothing. Again, we didn't realize it was going to be for a year, but man, this was like a bright spot in the early days of this pandemic, because it took our minds off everything. It was live entertainment, which was just not happening. No one else was doing it at this point. No. So I was very excited to sit down and watch it.
Yeah, I couldn't wait, man. It was definitely a distraction. Again, things were kind of par for the course for me as far as going to work and everything, but the world was different, and I was, it's live entertainment, and it was WWE, and it's always WrestleMania is always fun, man. No matter if it's WrestleMania 11 or not, it's still going to be fun. So, WrestleMania 5, it's still WrestleMania, and it's going to be fun. Right. They're going to do their best to put on a good show, So, and this is the main event of night 1. So
absolutely.
And you didn't know that at the time. They hadn't announced it, I don't think. But then as the night went on and they were saying what's coming up next, it's like, oh, wait a minute. So the Undertaker is going to main event WrestleMania night 1.
Yeah, I don't think we even knew until the pre-show when they started talking about the match lineup for night 1. We didn't know, is it going to be night 1 or is it going to be night 2? We didn't even know which night to expect it for.
Exactly.
So they did reveal that. And yeah, dude, to me, this, even though it's 2 nights of WrestleMania, this counts as a main event in my book because I count this as a separate show from night 2. I count it as a separate show, but the same show, I guess. I don't know, but I count this as a main event.
If you saw Bruce Springsteen play 2 nights at the Madison Square Garden, whatever show he played, whatever song he plays last, it's still the last song that he closed with that night. You can't say the song he closed with the second night is the closing song. No, it's not. It's, so yeah, this is definitely a main event of WrestleMania. So, or like if a band plays a festival, each night they close with a different song. So this is the main event of that night. So I definitely agree.
Yeah.
AJ Styles main event at WrestleMania.
He did.
Taker main evented his last match was a main event at WrestleMania.
And it's no fans. It's a cinematic match, but I think it's still a main event. And I'm going to share a lot more stats and numbers on next week's episode. Yeah. But I do want to throw out that this is The Undertaker's 5th WrestleMania main event, which puts him in a very high category. Of course, there's been 36 WrestleManias. Undertaker main evented 5 of those, which is pretty dang impressive. Wow. That ties him with The Rock, who's also had 5 WrestleMania main events, and puts him behind Shawn Michaels, who's had 6, Triple H, who has had 7, and Hulk Hogan, who has had 8 WrestleMania main events. And I'm just counting the last match as the main event. And, sometimes they say, oh, there's a triple main event or whatever. I'm not counting those. I'm just counting went on last on the show. Yeah. And Taker is ahead of guys like Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, John Cena, which is kind of crazy. He really has only had 3, I think, WrestleMania main events. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Randy, 21, 22, and 23. He has not main evented a WrestleMania.
27. We were there.
Oh, okay. So that's still just 4, though. You're right. I did forget about that. But still only 4.
Most people did.
Touché.
And didn't he main event with The Rock twice after that?
Wait a minute. Did I get that wrong? So he had 21, 22, 23, 27...
28
and then
8 and 29.
23.
Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you're right.
I was like, I know it was more than 3.
Yeah. Okay. So that puts him ahead of Taker. Yeah, he's with Shawn Michaels. He's got 6. You're right.
Well, okay.
Correct. But Stone Cold has only had 14, 15, and 17. So like that icon, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
It's crazy.
Only main evented 3 WrestleManias. Undertaker's got 2 on him. Yeah. Randy Orton is only main evented 25 and 30. So Randy Orton, only 2 main events of WrestleMania.
It's
and
crazy.
He's a Hall of Famer. Batista, only a couple. Bret Hart, only a couple. Randy Savage, only a couple. And I think Roman and Brock will probably have 7 or 8 by the time their careers are all said and done with. But as of now, they are underneath The Undertaker in his 5 WrestleMania main events. And, that's pretty dang iconic and speaks to his legacy, especially because of the fact that 2 of them, 33 and 36, are in the last couple years of his career, in his 50s. It's
crazy.
Man.
Yeah.
He's got 2 WrestleMania main events.
Yeah, he's probably, we'll get some more stats in, but he's probably main evented the longest apart. I don't know. We'll see next week. We'll go over some stats like that. But
I'll have to look that up.
Pretty cool, man.
Pretty dang cool here. So we get a fantastic video package, as always, recapping the whole rivalry. Again, they've got images from Michelle and Undertaker's Instagram in there, which is really, really cool that they pulled those in there. And after everything has been in the Performance Center all night long, we head to the swampy marsh, the swampy Boneyard in the dark of Florida, somewhere in an undisclosed location. We see some headstones, and we see clearly, okay, this is what we're getting. We're seeing multiple camera cuts. We're hearing music in the background. This is not going to be just your standard street fight on location.
No.
This is very clearly a cinematic match.
Yeah. Something totally different. So, it's going to be something completely different, and, we don't know what to expect, but it's something akin to, like, the Matt Hardy stuff, the final deletion and stuff like that. So, and again, all credit to Matt Hardy. That stuff was great, but this is just on another level, when WWE does it and they can produce it, because they have billions of dollars. So that's Saudi money. But anyway, we got Taker's old theme, his original version playing, and then hearse drives through a big old iron gate. 2 druids come to the back and open the back of the hearse and pull out a casket. They go to open it up, and they reveal AJ Styles as his music then starts. They don't want none. And he's laughing and cackling and got his jeans and his little cut-off sleeve T-shirt on, and it's just pretty. Just jumps out at you from the get-go that this is going to be different,
It's great, man. I love it. Love how it starts. You're just sucked in from the beginning, and I remember that's how we were watching.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like on the edge of our seats. Like, this is great already. Like,
oh yeah,
AJ is just full cocky, confident heel. He reminds me of like a 97 DX Shawn Michaels.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the vibe, the confidence, the cockiness that he's given off here, and he's pulling it off too. Man, it's awesome.
Yeah, then you kind of hear something in the distance, and we hear the rumblings of a motorcycle. But then business really picks up next.
Oh yes, AJ's laughing, he's screaming, "This ain't that scary. I'm ready." He's just talking trash the whole time, and we cut to this road leading into the Boneyard, and we hear the beginnings of a Metallica song called "Now That We're Dead," and it's from their 2016 album, which I did not write down the title of, and I can't remember off the top of my head.
Nobody cares.
But it's not something I would listen to, but it's cool for this moment, man.
It fits
it's cool
like a
that
glove.
It's Metallica. It's not Limp Bizkit. It's not some generic rock band that you get for cheap.
Right.
It doesn't matter that it's a 2016 song. WWE had to spend some of that Saudi money to get the rights to this Metallica song, because it's
still
on the network. Yeah, it's on the network now. It's not like For Whom the Bell Tolls from Mania 27 or anything like that. And it's cool, man. It's cool as Undertaker rides down the road on a chopper. Man, it is the return of the Biker Taker for the first time in 17 years, since 2003. Man, this is the first time the Undertaker has rode in on a motorcycle. He is dressed in leather from head to toe. Got a bandana on his head. He looks more B.A. than he ever has here, dude. And this, we've talked about iconic Undertaker entrances throughout the years. You chalk another one up to his legacy, man. I'm not going to say it's the best one ever, but it fits. You could put it up there on the shelf. with some of the best ones ever, dude. This is so cool. It's shot. We're gonna say cinematic throughout this whole thing, but I don't think that pays it enough justice. Like it really is filmed like a
movie.
Like a high budget movie.
Yeah.
It does not, the final deletion, the TNA stuff at least, it's great. It's so entertaining.
Yeah.
But it's not
lower budget.
It's like DVD compared to Blu-ray, man. As far as this goes, this is great camera work. This is great cinematography, dude. It's such a cool way for Undertaker to come in, and we see like the camera like pans up across his whole body. The name Undertaker just kind of like flashes across the screen. It's so different, and I'm hooked in from this moment, man. I'm here for it.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's awesome, and AJ is hyped, and Taker walks through the smoke here, and AJ's asking, he's talking trash, and he's like, does Michelle know you're out this late? And he shows us that he's dug a grave for the Undertaker. Undertaker says, you dug your own grave, son. And AJ says, oh, you think so? And Taker says, I know so. Which, remember that, folks, because that's foreshadowing that I missed on night when we watched it live. I missed that, and it's going to come back to play, which again brings the cinematicness of it, into play. What you can't do in the ring and tell the story in the ring, you can tell it with visuals and with dialogue like that.
Yeah, of course. Nobody knew what that was going to mean later on in the match, but it just adds to it when you go back and watch it a second time, like we did here this past week. And they're going to continue to just talk smack throughout this entire match, and we get to hear it all, which is so entertaining. As AJ, he's going to grab a rock off the ground, and he's going to go to hit Undertaker. Dude, it's yeah, sure. It's a street fight, man. It's a Boneyard match. There's no rules. But Taker blocks him, and Taker's just going to unload on AJ for the first few minutes of this match. Typical Undertaker stuff, dude. He's going to pretty much almost every Undertaker match, he's going to have the early advantage of it, and this one's no different. He unloads some soup bones. He talks trash the whole time, calling AJ Allen. Saying, you want more of this, Allen? This is what you wanted, Allen. And they fight over towards the hearse that AJ drove in on. And Undertaker tosses AJ into that casket with a few hard shots. Yep. And then he picks up, I don't know exactly what it was, some sort of steel rod or something off the ground. I don't know what it came from. And he's going to go to hit it into AJ. But AJ ducks, and Taker's hand is going to go through the hearse window Goldberg style.
Yeah, you shouldn't, you already had that debacle in Saudi with Goldberg. Maybe you shouldn't take pointers from him. But yeah, this happened to Goldberg in WCW. But and we know from the last ride that they had to stop production right then and get his arm looked at and everything, and which is crazy to think about. I think they filmed this from like 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. or so. It was insane, but so he breaks through the hearse windshield, and AJ climbs over the hood, but Taker drags him back, and they start trading shots, and Taker throws AJ, and he just flips him back first right into the windshield, and AJ's screaming, and Taker just kind of sits down on the hood and is like, you want more of this old man? And I love it, dude. It's just like an old Western almost, like this. The old gunslinger, and the new kid in town. And they're just punching, trading shots on the roof. And Taker mounts him and just lays into him. And every time he punches, he's like, don't ever talk about my wife. And it's just so funny, man.
It's so classic. It's so old school. And AJ collapses to the ground off the car, and Taker asks AJ if you want some more, and Taker says, I got a lot of more left in me, dude, which is just one of the best lines of the night. You want more? I got a lot of more. But AJ is gonna finally get a little bit of an advantage here, as when he falls to the ground, he picks some dirt up off the Boneyard and throws it into the eyes of the Taker. Then gives him, indeed, and then gives him a kick right to Death Valley. Takes over for a minute, and you can see I'm sure it's just makeup, but you see some bruises and blood on AJ's arm here as he picks up the Undertaker, and he's going to try to knock him into the grave here in the early parts of this match. Taker fights back. Again, knocks AJ to the ground. Every time Undertaker punches AJ just bumps straight to the ground, which is perfect. And Taker does it again, and now he knocks AJ into the grave. And he asks AJ how it feels down there in the grave. But then we hear a couple different voices coming up from behind.
Hey, dead man, we're just getting started. We turn around to see Gallows and Anderson. And then, like, some southern rock guitar hits, like, it's so good, man.
It's like a movie, dude.
Yeah, it really
it's like the final fight scene
like
of
an
an 80s movie, dude. Like the best kind of cheesy 80s. Jean-Claude Van Damme,
Live by the Fist.
Chuck Norris, Live by the Fist, Jerry Trimble. The best kind of movie like that.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect, man. And, so, hey, dead man, we're just getting started. Gallows and Anderson there. Taker spits. He's like... He walks towards them, and it's great, dude. And they actually step aside, and then these lights come up in the barn behind him. And then, just like something out of, like, remind me of Ninja Turtles 2, man. Like, the wall falls down out of this barn, and then, like, these 6 to 8 druids walk out, and the camera is just circling around Taker and the druid, and just very much like you said, that final battle in in a movie when the Street Fighter guy's there, he's got to fight all the goons coming at him. So, but just the camera work there is so cool.
It reminded me of Power Rangers with like the
putties
putties.
come out? Yeah.
10 putties would come out, and the Red Ranger would just because that's pretty much what Taker does here. Just but just takes them all out.
Yeah, he takes them out real easily, and then the Good Brothers try to double team him, and then Anderson goes and just grabs a shovel. Gonna do work here.
Just the stick of a shovel, though. And he's gonna run at Taker with it, but Taker boots him down. He lays in some uppercuts to the Good Brothers. He grabs the shovel stick and shoves it in the gut and the back of Gallows and Anderson. But AJ Styles has had some time to recover, and he's found a cinder block on the Boneyard property, and it explodes into dust as he breaks it on the Undertaker's back.
Yeah, it's just so he's talking smack, punching Taker. You get the mounted punches like he's on him, and he's another great thing about AJ. Like you mentioned, his selling. He's punching Taker, and he's acting like he's holding his finger, like he's hurt. Like punching Taker has actually hurt him. That's one thing we pointed out a long time ago, just like the realness of that. Like I've always said I hate the 10 punches because it's fun. It's fun for the crowd, but it's so unrealistic because you can't punch a guy 10 times in the face without breaking your knuckles, man. Like you're going to break something. So, AJ, just that little attention to detail, man, is so... It's just a veteran and just a pro in him. It's so funny because he's going to continue to sell that the rest of the match. But just some realism is fun.
It's a great little touch in there. But AJ, he's talking through this entire thing. He tells old man Taker to stay down. Undertaker is wincing in pain too. He's like gasping for air.
Yeah.
and they're both just like selling really, really hard. AJ tells him to retire already, let him bury him, and then AJ runs at Taker, and they crash through another wall of this barn on the Boneyard, and Undertaker continues to gasp for air, which is, they're both selling this entire match.
Yeah.
It's so they're talking great trash, but this isn't like the Avengers, where like they're just like superheroes and you don't see like any bumps or bruises or scratches on anything. Like you see that, like they're bleeding, they're bruised, they're broken finger, gasping for air. You see the realism in it. Funny to say realism during this match, but
yeah,
it grounds it, a little bit.
It does.
And AJ tells Undertaker he just doesn't have it anymore. But Undertaker, he's got enough strength to get one finger up to throw up to AJ Styles, and I'll let you guys guess which finger he throws up as he wheezes on the ground. Another just great moment. And
he's wheezing and he's flicking AJ off, which again, that's not something the dead man character would do. So, we've got him riding in on a motorcycle. He's still the Undertaker, but he's more like the biker taker. He's not officially that because he's not coming out to roll in or American BA, but like he's as close to that as you're going to get, and he's flicking people off here. So, and then the AJ's, said Taker was an American BA. Looks like he's a broken down old B word there, and AJ's dropping some bombs here, which is uncharacteristic for his character. So, but AJ says, I'm doing the world a favor. I'm going to bury you right now, and he then breaks a shovel over Taker's back, and Taker actually going to fall into the grave here. So AJ's going to pick up some sand and let it run through his fingers, and he says, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
And that's when the moment becomes darkest for the Undertaker here. It looks like things are going downhill, and AJ hops onto a big old John Deere tractor that's parked right in front of the grave. It's got a big backhoe on it full of dirt that he's going to unload onto the grave. But in classic Undertaker fashion for this last match, a big burst of light appears behind AJ Styles. We don't hear a gong, but we do see the Undertaker standing behind AJ, using those magical, mystical powers one more time. And the music swells up behind them. AJ looks behind him, and Undertaker goozles him. And this is like, again, we talk about these moments in the Undertaker matches over the last 10 years or so. And this is the one you see in GIF form so much from this match. And so many memes are made of just like AJ smiling and Undertaker right behind him. Like, there's people who don't even follow wrestling that use that GIF template on there. It's like me on Monday, or my responsibilities, or something like behind it, stuff like that. Lots of funny stuff on the internet. It's great stuff. I get that's the cool thing that Undertaker has done. That I'm not saying every match on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown should have like an iconic moment in it or something, but like that's something Undertaker worked to do and planned to do in his matches as he got older, was to have like that one moment that you'll always remember this match for, and that's it for this match, I think.
Well, that's what wrestling is about, and AJ Styles has said in interviews that he didn't realize that until he got to WWE. It's not about the match, it's about the moments, and to a certain degree, it is about the match, but to more of a degree when it comes to the sports entertainment part, it is about the moments, Everybody remembers the moment that Shawn super kicked Shelton when he jumped halfway across the ring. You don't remember the rest of the match. You just remember that, So anyway, moving on. AJ, gets punched off the tractor. He scrams and climbs up a ladder to the top of the barn now. So Taker's talking smack to him as he's climbing up, and he's like, "This what you wanted? This what you wanted?" And AJ's begging off, backing away. He was in Fortune in TNA with Ric Flair, so he's got some of that back off heel tactics from Ric Flair. So he's backing away, and then Taker's just like raises his arms, and like he used to back in 97 or 96 or whatever that was, and raises his arms, and the flames just shoot up on top of the barn, man. So again, just it's the realism of the biker taker, but the supernatural of the Undertaker, too, at the same time, all coming into one. So I love that. And then he just boots AJ, and now Gallows and Anderson, the cronies are up there too, and Taker punches both of them and then just throws Gallows off the side of the barn, and almost wanted to hear like one of those Wilhelm screams, like yeah, yeah, that's even awesome. It's great, man.
And as he heaves Gallows off, he picks up Carl Anderson, gives him a tombstone on the roof of this barn, and we didn't know it at the time, but he pretty much effectively kills off Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson from the WWE, because they are both released a couple of weeks after
11 days later,
Yeah, they're never seen on TV again. Who knows if they'll ever be back again. They're doing fine in TNA and AEW and whatever they're doing over there, but it's funny, like he officially kills them off in this moment. AJ is just like, he's in shock. Like, how are you still standing? How are you still standing? He's trying to punch Undertaker. Undertaker has no selling it. AJ begs off again. And then Undertaker chokeslams AJ off the roof of the barn through something, some metal, wood, something
Pallets
else.
or something.
Yeah, on the side of it. I don't care that it's cinematic and planned out. That's still a big bump off the top of this roof. That's a stuntman level bump, and it's a big bump for AJ taking this match, and it looks really cool.
It looks awesome, man. And Taker then's going to climb down the ladder and walks toward AJ, and he's like, what's my wife's name? And he's asking AJ, how old am I now? How old am I? And he's just dirty trash talking him. I love it, man. And he's like, oh yeah, well, we're just getting started. Like, we're just getting started. Like, he's been through, hell at this point. He's just getting started. So he drags AJ over and lifts him up and tells him, I'm going to help you out. And he puts him up on his shoulder and he says, you know what, boy, you're tougher than I gave you credit for. And he dumps AJ down next to the grave. And AJ's like, don't bury me. I'm sorry. Like, don't. And Taker's like, you're sorry? What are you sorry for, boy? What are you sorry for? And I just love his tough talk, man. It's funny.
Yeah, dude, it's like the voice it just reminded me of your dad for some reason. It's like an old Southern man, like the way he would discipline. Not that your dad disciplines you like that, but something your dad would do. Very dad-like to AJ here as he's disciplining him. But Taker props AJ up, and AJ's begging off, but Undertaker, he laughs it off, man. He's like, come on, man. He kind of tussles AJ's hair as he's holding him and says, look, dude, you put on a hell of a fight. Then he goozles him, and he's choking him, and he says, hey, man, I'm not going to bury you. You fought your butt off. There's a lot of people who never gave me that fight. And he calls him a good brother, and he starts to walk away from him. He's released Undertaker from the goozle. He got AJ to the point of like basically peeing his pants and being afraid he's gonna die. But he kind of laughs it off. He's just like, I respect you, man. Like, you gave me the fight of my life, so I'm gonna let you live. Starts to walk away, and then of course he turns right back around, gives AJ a big boot right into the grave, and then stands over him for a moment before he finally buries him.
Yeah, you said AJ in the grave, and Taker's eyes get kind of big, like, hey, I got an idea here. And he goes up to the front end loader there and just cranks it back up, and then it's going to dump that dirt into the grave onto AJ Styles to officially end the match at 24 minutes. So that's a lengthy time, which is probably how much time they would have gotten if it had been an in-ring thing too. But
yeah, probably.
But then, the music here culminates with a gong, and Taker gets off the tractor and he walks behind the gravestone. And as he walks by, this is one of the coolest parts of the whole thing. We told you earlier, make sure you remembered what he said. So he just kind of casually walks by and rubs his hand over that moss on top of the gravestone. And as he does it, we see that AJ Styles did in fact dig his own grave, because the gravestone is that one that says AJ Styles rest in peace 1977-2020. So I mean, it doesn't get any more perfect than that, dude.
I'm just loving hearing you say it again.
It's
man.
so good. It's so good.
It's cinematic, like in a good way. Like it's great. I'm at a loss for words of how fun
that was perfect.
This is. Yeah.
He dug his own. AJ's. Oh, you
he
sure?
Dug his own grave.
I told you. Yeah.
Yes.
I promise you. Yeah.
Full circle, baby.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then we pan down for the goofiest moment of the match, but at this point, who cares? So we pan down, and AJ Styles' hand and his glove is sticking out from out of the dirt in there, which is silly, but they've earned it at this point. Mm-hmm. And we hear that old school Undertaker music playing one last time. Taker walks back to his bike. He picks up his bandana, which had come off during the match, puts it back on his head, and he revs up the motorcycle again. And then he throws up a fist. Flames burst out of the big barn. we see that neon XT symbol lighting up behind. Metallica cranks up again. The dead man rides off into the darkness from out of the Boneyard as the show goes off the air with Metallica screaming, "We can live forever!" Which is, I mean, the whole presentation, the whole ending,
awesome.
the whole spectacle of it. You're just sitting there watching it live, like, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
It was like the greatest thing I'd ever seen, watching it live. Watching it back here a year later, I'm still just in awe of how perfectly put together it was, how perfectly edited it was, how well they worked in all these different moments. And I think the fact that they've done so many of these other cinematic matches in the past year and how they have paled in comparison to this one. You know, the only one I'd put even close to next to it is the Firefly Funhouse from the very next night. That's the only one that was nearly as entertaining as this one. It shows you, people may discredit this and say, oh, it's not a real match. Oh, it doesn't really count. Just look at all these other times that they've done it where they've had way more time to put it together and think about it, and they were not nearly as awesome as this one. I think that points to not only The Undertaker, but AJ Styles as well.
Yeah.
I think AJ Styles deserves a huge amount of credit for this match.
Yeah, no doubt, man. He did, man. Like I said, everybody on the production side that got involved in it. And, man, I just remember being enthralled with this. And, I mean, we were zooming on this and we watched it together. And as soon as we all said bye, I watched this again immediately. I mean, I told you that later. Like, I texted you that night or maybe the next day. And because we zoomed a little bit the next night, too, if I'm not mistaken. Did we watch the whole thing? I think we did. Watch the whole thing the next night,
No, I don't think we watched the whole show.
The whole next night? Okay.
I don't know.
But,
maybe we
watched
I don't remember.
Anyway.
We watched a lot of it, yeah.
I remember texting you and saying, like, I just watched that again, dude. Like, it was so, like, there's only been several matches that I wanted to watch immediately again. And I'm not saying this is not my number one match of Taker's. I'll go ahead and spoil it. That's not it for next week. But, you know, it's definitely going to make it on top 20. But, like, this was just so different, man. It wasn't a normal match. It was cinematic. It was cool. And it was just, I had to see it again immediately. And I loved it. And it was great. And mad props to everybody involved, from Triple H to Michael Hayes, Jeremy Borash, and The Undertaker, because we found out on the last ride, he found out his brother died the day before they filmed this, or the day they filmed this, or whatever. Like, and he just still, the show must go on, and nobody had a clue. We didn't find out until the last ride. That wasn't leaked anywhere on a dirt sheet. Meltzer didn't have the scoop. Nobody. Taker revealed that to us, to his fans, you know, that happened. And it's just crazy, man. Just a true professional, and he didn't owe us that, too. I say that so much on this show. He didn't owe us anything. That he could have ended his career when he retired Shawn, and it had been fine. Like, he didn't owe us any of this extra stuff, man. It's all extra credit, dude. And so, epic way to end the career. I love it. So the fans. And remind me again, what won match of the year for WWE in 2020?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, man. This one won match of the year 2020. Yeah. The Undertaker, in his final match in the 30th year of his career, wins WWE match of the year. Screw Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer newsletter and the people who vote for that, because it was not even in their top 10.
That's just stupid.
Shut up. Are you kidding me? And they had a cinematic. They had the Stadium Bash.
Stampede.
Stadium Stampede. That's a cinematic match, which is great. It was fun. Yeah. But God, give me a break.
Yeah.
Like, screw Dave Meltzer and the fans who voted for that. Like, give me a break, man. This was the best match of 2020, without question. And it's in strong contention for our top 20 of all time that we'll be dealing with next week. It felt like the final scene of a great action movie. The Undertaker felt like he should be in the next Expendables movie. I mean, this was like the peak, the pinnacle of his career, 30 years leading up to this point. You couldn't have done this match without his whole legacy leading up to it. AJ Styles was a perfect foil for The Undertaker. Gallows and Anderson played their roles perfectly here. It was not at all what I expected it to be. And if you asked me to dream up the perfect final match for The Undertaker, I would not have ever said something like this. But it turned out to be perfectly fitting for his finale, in my opinion, because it's iconic. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, you run the risk with a final match in the ring of it being something like Taker and Roman from WrestleMania 33, which was supposed to be his final match. You know, you run the risk of it not being something like this, but this will live on forever. This is, for a character like The Undertaker, to have a match like this be his send-off, be his finale, for him to literally get on the motorcycle and ride off into the darkness forever. Like, how could you ask for anything more than that? You know,
I know.
I would love to see more Boneyard matches. I'd love to see him wrestle in front of fans again. Don't get me wrong, that excites me, but I really just don't want. I don't know that you can top this. I don't know that you could do a better Boneyard match, a better cinematic match. I don't know that being in front of fans could be any better than this.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, man. Wholeheartedly. I got nothing else to add to that. It's perfect. So, yeah. And it's great.
Just one last thought on it. Like I think it's really special how you start in 1990 with this guy who is at his most zombie-like, monster-like, stoic, no personality, the gray gloves, the dead eyes, you know, walks to the ring like a zombie, chokes people out like a movie monster. And then over the course of his 30-year career, year after year after year, he starts to become more of like a real human. And the realness lets in. You know, he becomes the biker taker, and it becomes really real. You know, he goes back to the end, swings back to the dead man, but again, you know, we talked about it in the Triple H, Shawn Michaels feuds and everything, CM Punk feud. You know, the realness begins to seep in. He begins to become more of a real man. It begins to become more human. And then by the time we reach this last match, he's basically morphed from the dead man into Mark Calloway, as he talks about his wife, as he, you know, he's at his most vulnerable. And I just, you know, it's not just the way that the whole match is, it's the whole presentation of the Undertaker character coming full circle. You know, it would almost tarnish that if he ever had to wrestle again, you know, with the full Undertaker garb. Like, just the way that he goes from the most, you know, kind of ridiculous character to the most like himself that he's ever been. I think it's so poetic and fitting for his career.
Yeah, he goes from, like you said, just protected to the most vulnerable. You know, it's perfect, man. It's a perfect ending. You know, we didn't know. Like I said, if it had been a match with AJ and it had been 5 stars at Raymond James Stadiums, and it would have been great, that would have been a perfect ending as well. But I think this is a more perfect ending we didn't know that we needed. You know, sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone, I guess you could say. Like, but when the fans are gone and you got to just pivot, this is awesome. And they made some great chicken salad here out of chicken.
They did.
You know what? You know, and I don't even like chicken salad, so they made some great chicken salad here. And kudos to them. And because like you said, there have been other cinematic matches who haven't been done so well. And but this is the first one and the best one, and it set the bar too high that nobody can attain. So.
Yes, it did. And he goes out in the main event, goes out on top. You know, it's usually traditional for a guy to go out putting somebody over, but in this time, like in the early days of COVID, you just wanted the happy ending. You wanted something iconic like this for Undertaker. I don't think there's anything wrong with him beating AJ. I think he, like you said, AJ got to be in the main event of WrestleMania in this match. I think AJ was elevated even in losing this match. So I don't think there's anything wrong with Undertaker winning this match and going out on top.
Nope.
Yeah, man, it's I keep talking because this is it. After 186 episodes, after starting this ambitious project, after starting it kind of as a lark, kind of as not knowing exactly what it was going to be or if we'd ever really commit to it, we did it, man.
We did it.
We covered 30 years of the Undertaker's career, and now it is done. It will rest in peace. It's hard to believe, but I will try not to get too weird talking about it here at the end of this journey, because we are gonna have one last episode next week, so I'll save all that for next week. You and I are gonna meet up in person. We have not seen each other in person since March of last year.
That's
right?
true.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't think we saw each other.
No. I saw you at Christmas. I came to your parents' house for
Yes,
2
you
seconds.
did. You did. Yeah. We
were there for 10 minutes. That's
yep,
it. So
yeah, we had masks on and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So but we will see each other. We will record
time or
in
out or anything.
person.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's gonna be great. We're gonna have the final episode next week. And we are going to wrap it all up. We'll give our final thoughts on everything Undertaker related. We will answer questions. If you got more questions, if you've got stuff, I know there was a couple that came in late for our Q&A last week, so we will answer some of those, but we're open to some more questions you might have as we wrap things up. We'll give you some stats about Undertaker's career. We will give our personal top 20 all-time pay-per-view Undertaker matches. That will be the main event for next week's episode. We will give your top 20 that you, the fans, the creatures of the night, have voted on. You can find that link on all our social media pages, and I want to encourage you, it's not too late to vote when you hear this episode. We'll close the voting out on Saturday, which is a little bit earlier than we normally record, but since we're doing it in person, it's going to be a little bit earlier. And I want to be able to read the results on the final episode, so you got about 24 hours from when this episode drops to vote. And I'll tell you, as we record this episode a couple days early, it is hot and heavy. It is close on the results. Some unexpected as far as what I expected in the results.
Hey, you got to respect the unexpected, though.
Yeah, dude, it's the fans' vote, man. Let's hear them. Let's hear your votes. Vote for your top 20 of all time. We'll close
Tuesday.
out. We got a couple other Undertaker things that happened in 2020. We'll talk about his final farewell at Survivor Series. We'll talk about all that stuff next week on the show. But until then, we got your comments for this week. You know where we're at. Talking Taker on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We asked you about this match, the Boneyard match, and we got some comments from, our top 8. I don't think I have 8, but if we were on MySpace, a lot of these guys that we heard comments from would be our top fans on there. Evan William John said it's been nearly a year since Taker had his last match. I first started watching him in the summer of 2006. Undertaker was one of the last of my childhood wrestlers. He enjoyed this Boneyard match. Randy Turco, our main man, said, assuming he sticks to retirement, this played right into Undertaker's hands with the cinematic match. No crowd, but he had the benefit of second takes and great camera angles to make him look like $1 million. And this and the Firefly Funhouse stole the show. They both reminded me of fighting in the custom arenas from the In Your House video game. Taker had a crypt, HBK had the Heartbreak Hotel, which is a great illustration.
Great.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Great.
And that's something they talked about in the Last Ride documentary, how it was almost harder for Taker to do this match because, his body is conditioned to like 20 or 30 minutes of adrenaline to get him through this stuff. Mm-hmm. And shooting this match was like shooting a movie. It was start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. And they shot it for like 8 hours. And his body's hurting, it's bruised, it's sore, it's cramped, it's exhausted. So that was
Brother
really
died.
Not to mention that. Collecting Dead Man said this match was the highlight of last year's WrestleMania by a long shot. Kept me on the edge of my seat. Was definitely sports entertainment, which
No
I think
doubt.
in the best possible way. I agree with you. Said I'm biased. I would love another Taker match, but if this is the last, it was the perfect match right down to the final shot.
Yeah.
Princeton John said this was a perfect way for Undertaker to end his career. It had everything. A hybrid of Biker Taker and the Dead Man was fun to watch. It had a hearse. It had a casket. It had a graveyard. It had druids. Loved the cinematic match the style had. I wish it had an urn. I agree with you. Would have been nice to have a nice nod to Paul Bearer in there. Would have loved to have a crowd, of course, but given the circumstances, this was great. The Downturn said a good, fun match to go out on with elements of nearly all his characters rolled up into one. Yep. His only problem is he wants to hear more of us podcasting. I agree with you. I wish we could. But we want to thank all of you for your questions on last week's episode. We want to thank all of you for all your love and support over the years. We'll thank all of you more on next week's episode. Like I said, we're going to save all that for next week. But we appreciate you listening this week. Don't forget the TeePublic store. It's not going anywhere. You can support us. You can tell us you're a Biker Taker guy or a Biker Taker girl, tank top, t-shirt, whatever. You can go support Travis's YouTube channel and go listen to his new tunes that he's got. You can go support my dad's books at minddriftbooks.com if you want to hear more of his stories. I think if you're a fan of the show, you'll probably be a fan of his books. And
I agree.
Of course, like I said, get your questions in, get your votes in ASAP, because when you hear this episode, we're going to be recording the next one in just about 24 hours from when this episode drops.
Yep.
And we want to hear from you. Favorite memories of the show, favorite times, favorite, all your unanswered questions, stuff you want to hear about The Undertaker. We'll talk about as much of it as we can. We'll squeeze as much into it next week, Travis. I can't wait to see you, and I can't believe we did it. We did it.
We're here at the finish line. We crossed the finish line of matches, but we got to cross. We'll
have our victory lap next week.
I know, taking victory lap next week. So, this is the point in the show, and normally I would say if you were there, we want to hear from you, but I can't say that this week because none of you were there. So if you Zoomed this with your friends like we did, let us know. Let us know pretty quickly because we don't have another week to get this episode up. But this is the first time I can honestly not say if you were there.
Wait. Before you finish, I had a message from one of our other top 8. Watch Along Tommy. I forgot he DM'd me. It wasn't
he go?
on the Twitter.
Was he on the crew?
He tried, man.
What?
He was having his daughter born about 3 weeks before WrestleMania, and him and his wife agreed that they would not go. Of course, there's too much going on. But the WWE The Bump show was running a contest where you could win tickets to WrestleMania, and he was actually on The Bump. And you can find it. You can find it on the network. You can find it on YouTube.
Wow.
On there. He sent me the link, and I watched him. He did a trivia contest, much like I did with Tony Schiavone. And he was talking it down like he was so nervous on there. But he did a great job. Like, it's fun. It was like 60 seconds worth of WrestleMania trivia. And he got 7 questions right. But the guy he went against got 9 right. And the other guys they showed on the show did terrible. And if Tommy had been against anybody else, he would have advanced on there. He just happened to go against the one guy on there that was better than him. He just got a bad draw on there.
Bad seed, man.
Yeah.
Bad seeding.
But you can watch it. It's in like February of 2020. If you go back and watch The Bump, it's the episode with Natalia and Tyson Kidd around Valentine's Day. 2020, so you can go see our buddy Watch Along Tommy on the spot on the
That's right.
Bump episode.
Dummy.
It's really cool. He did a great job.
That's
Answered
awesome.
a couple Undertaker questions on there, but he did not win. But he did say, this match was a breath of fresh air. It was weird watching wrestling with no fans, but he was so happy that this match went on last, and he thought it was brilliant, what we all needed at the time, and he would love to see Undertaker come back for one last match with fans, but as long as he's happy with this one, we should all be happy with it. So, Tommy, great story.
Yeah.
Love that. Wish you could have gone to it, but nobody went to it, so I guess it all worked out. And yes, there's your story about someone who almost went to the
There
show.
you go.
There you go.
Just as good.
It's as close as we can get.
Close as we could get. So yeah, if you were also almost there, let us know how you almost got there. So anyway, other than that, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week for our final episode. So this is the next to last time I'll get to say these words. So ladies and gentlemen, stay safe out there, and most importantly, take her easy.